Well, we got a Majestic in here, this Class C. We got an X on that because that is a, like pads I like to mark for certain things. We usually use that for like the roof just to protect it as we're working on it, but it doesn't have to be overly clean. That just means don't put that on furniture. That's what that means. Because when we go inside, we're going to wrap everything, all the furniture and anywhere, to make sure we don't get any booger on anything. But so if you're looking at for a Class C, one of the things you do when you look at a Class C, go, hey, I may be interested in buying this. Look over here. See how that's dipping? That is indicative that that bunk is rotted. And it is. It's rotted out. So I'm about ready to take it apart. And then I'll have to slide all the scaffold apart for sure. But let's see if we can't come up here and take a look at the roof. Like I said, we just back this in. You can see the hot mess we got here. Lens is broke. So we try to slobber more on. You can just see the whole thing is, it obviously is a mess. So skylight broke. I mean, just one thing after another. It's just a terrible roof for sure. But if you look here, and you can, I don't know if you can see the belly in this, but there is a serious belly in there. That roof is just diving down right in there. So we're going to have to, obviously when we take it apart, we're going to investigate to see how we're going to remedy this situation. There's a few different ways that I have in mind, and what determines how I go about fixing, repairing, and building up and whatever is the composition of the roof assembly and the ceiling assembly. And I try to do what I can to make it structurally sound without tearing into a wallet. Some of these I've had to rebuild and put camber on, and sometimes that's an option, and I may offer it to the customer and say, hey, we could do this, and they may say yay or nay. And then we may say, all right, well, we can do this, and I give them all the pros and cons to it. That's basically it. So we're going to be putting new gutters on here. I'm going to take these off. For one, they're too small, and two, I don't like the way these screws are all exposed. So we'll be putting new gutters on there. And then I'm sure we're going to be putting a new vent in there. But I'm just trying to give you an overview of what we got with this roof. And like I said, that skylight, I'm sure we're probably going to have to replace that skylight as well. But this is your typical RV roof. So some of the other things that you want to try to do is make sure all your windows are all sealed. And I know I've gone over this in a lot of different videos. But that's something if I can get something to, I'm going to see if I can get something to put across here. Oh, here we go. I got it right here. Let's see if this will work. I wanted to show you how bad that sag was. I got a piece of aluminum stock sitting right here. Look at there. Let's see if we can get an idea. I mean, I can't even reach it. Let's see, I'll climb up here. I'll put the camera down. Boy, this is all rotted. You can feel it. You got a nice slice in that roof right there. So it looks like someone tried to repair it. That's what all that is. That looks like a repair right here. So let's see if I can. You're looking at about an inch on there. At least that. Yeah. Just add an inch, maybe 7/8 on there. But, you know, and that's, I'm not even going all the way over. See, I'm sure if I got a longer piece of stock, that it would be even deeper than that, you know, because it would have to go to this other end too. So I'll bet you probably got 1.25 inches or so on there. That's pretty well sagged out. So, and again, those are indicative signs. If you go and look, a lot of people, they do not get up on the roof to take a look at anything. It surprises me because, you know, this is a roof system is probably one of the most expensive items you're going to have to replace on an RV. I mean, very rarely you're going to have to replace the engine. Usually most of them have low miles, and the transmission, the drivetrains are always usually pretty good because they usually have low miles. But I will tell you, you will have to replace an RV roof, period. period. I don't care if it's brand new. You're going to replace it because they're put down pretty bad. So some of the other things here, this is why we put the curbs up on everything. See how all the twigs and everything, they get stuck up underneath there. And when you're traveling, all this will get stuck up underneath. There's a foam gasket. And then all that will dry out, and it'll dry out that gasket. And then when the gasket dries out, it's not watertight. And then you start getting, weeps and wicks of water that get in there and start delaminating your roof deck. The other concern too is up underneath here is a drain port. There's a pan, that metal piece, that's the bottom of the AC. You take the cover off, where this will drain is going to be right here. But if you get all that debris and leaves and dirt and everything, it'll clog it up. Then it'll build up and it'll get down in the fan. When the fan tries to cool, it'll pull that moisture and that water, the evaporated moisture, back into the ductwork or back into the ceiling area and whatnot, and that'll cause you some rot as well. So this is why we elevate them. That's the way a commercial roof functions. So when they put these down, they just want to get them built, get them out, get them sold, and then what they'll do is say, hey, put more on, and they just want you to keep building this up. But we'll say that system did work, which it doesn't, but we'll say it did. Could you imagine keep piling 1/4 of an inch on top of this, every few months? Within a year, you're going to have this thing 1 inch thick. And then what happens is you get a moat of right all around the perimeter. And within 2 years, you probably have close to 2 inches of stuff just slobbered on there. I mean, that's a lot. That's just not the way it works. So then you have to go back and clean it out because now it's getting too thick and water is not draining right. So that's why you need curbs. The curbs also eliminate basically an erosion effect as water starts getting blown across the roof. Eventually, it wears it down. So you want to be able to eliminate that problem. And again, I mean, you can see how someone's just been trying to repair this thing. They've obviously had some serious issues with that skylight. So, but like I said, we're going to rip this apart, and we're going to. But right now, I'm going to start taking apart the bunk, and I'll pull this apart. I want to get that bunk rebuilt. I don't know if I need ceiling panel or not, but all that I guess I'll find out, and I'll just keep you clued in to everything. But like I said, that's what this is. I'm sure if I slice this open, I mean, it's just all delaminated. I mean, you can feel how it's not even stuck. Hey. Look there. And this has been sitting, that is still wet. And that's been sitting in we have a storage bay. And this has literally been sitting in there for a few months, at least. And it will never dry out. You get moisture underneath this roof system, or in the walls, or anywhere. If you don't get air going across it, it will not dry out, period. It won't dry out. So obviously we're going to strip all that and redeck it and whatnot. So, but again, this is some of the things I like to show folks when they go and look at it and go, hey, I can just imagine. I mean, it's going to cost you a few bucks for this roof for sure. And then, again, you want to make sure all the windows are sealed. And if you get up on there and you see all this hot mess right here, that's really what it is. And you see all that, you may go, hey, I'm going to have to put a new roof on there. You see a sag like that, and you see the bunk like I showed you, and all this, you can tell it just wasn't taken care of. So obviously it's indicative you're going to have some issues with this. I don't know if I'm going to have some issues with this back wall. I'm just kind of glossing over. I see a couple little squiggles, and I don't know if that's just the way the camera's hitting it down in that way, or if it's just the way my shop lights are hitting it right now. But we'll take a look at it. But again, check around. Make sure everything's sealed. You want to make sure everything's good, again, especially on the roof. Most everything else, you can take care of. But, this is, it's a lot of work to put these on. It's a lot of, especially the way we put them on. But now you go to somebody else, like another RV center, all they're going to do is strip this off, and they're just going to put another roof system on exactly like this, and you're going to be back to doing the same exact, moron system. That's all you're going to do. You don't want to do that. You want to be done with it. So our roofs are literally a commercial roof. But my background, I'm a general contractor in 3 different states, or shall I say former contractor. I don't do general contracting anymore. But we used to do restaurants, and we maintain 600 restaurants east of the Mississippi. So that being said, my background's commercial work, general contracting, from building, structurality, roof systems, exterior systems, and even interior. But all that being said, what I did is I designed a commercial roof, literally a commercial roof to fit on here. All the products I use are all commercial products. I'm going to put a 60 mil commercial grade TPO, which is a thermoplastic, but I'm going to put curbs up on here. So I custom designed these curbs to fit and function properly for an RV. That's why everything works. And I like to see these come back, because if there's a hiccup, I want to see, hey, where's the problem? You know, is there something going on? And we build fail safes in these. We build fail safes in here, so when they do come back, I can take a look at it and go, okay, all right, this section of that fail safe, if you will, isn't lasting. Why is that? And I want to know why. You know, and it really helps me out when they come back. So I'll give you an example. Right here, years ago, and around here, this is all rotted, and a lot of that comes from condensation that sits on the roof. On the actual lens, but there's condensation up inside. So a lot of times when the sun comes up, it's going to evaporate what's on top, but what's up actually underneath it, it can't evaporate out. There's no way for it to get out. So what it does is when it condensates down, all that frost, when it condensates down, it starts getting wicked up by your ceiling panel and also your roof deck panel. So it'll drip all the way down, and those are chronic leaks. You won't see it for probably a couple of years maybe. So what I've done is I've designed another system for that. It's a ventilation system that I'm gonna, when I put it together, and I've been doing, if you watch the last few videos at least, I've shown you how I put a solar fan in there, and I make it so it has an intake. Now I got a plumbing right here, so I may have to redesign this a little bit and make it depending on where I want to put the intake and the exhaust fan, but it's a solar fan. So when the sun comes up to evaporate that off, the solar fan will kick on, and I'll have another, it'll look like a plumbing right here. It'll look very similar to that, but it's actually an intake, and it'll pull the air into the lens right here on the underside, and also your interior lens. So you have that little cavity in there, and it'll keep drawing air until the sun goes down, right? So, but those are some things that I come across, and they work real well, and it solved the problem. So I like to see them come back, so I can see how everything's performing. I want to make sure that, you know, the caulking that we're using, it's performing, that we didn't get a bad batch somewhere, or did the manufacturer change up their chemistry on it, and now it's not functioning like it did maybe even years ago. Is that the case? Do I have to look for a different type of caulking? So that's why I really like to see them come back, and the inspections are absolutely free. So just keep that in mind. They're absolutely free. Folks are paying us to put a roof on here to make sure that roof lasts for 20 years. Well, I cannot do that if I don't see it. So, and there's, like I said, I've been doing this for many, many years. Okay, I've probably got, I mean, literally, I've probably got about 40 years, I guess, into this. And I mean, I've been doing this since I was a kid. So, and I'm pretty old now. But I do have a cold, I guess, or sinus, something. So bear with me. But my point is, I can recognize certain things that look like they're about to fail or just don't look right. And then I can make adjustments before it becomes a big event to have to rebuild, strip something off, and redo a whole bunch of stuff. So, and again, that's why I like to see them come back. So let me start taking apart the bunk, and then I'll let you know on the rest of, you know, everything else, how it comes apart. Obviously, you know, we'll put the video together. So, all right, off to work I go. And then the only thing I got here, I don't usually do promos, but I come across these tape measures. And this here, you can write on that with a pencil and then erase it. This is called a fast cap. This one is called a lefty-righty. What I like about it is you can read the tape measure. See if I can just press it down here. You can read the tape measure in either way. So if you're pulling it from the left, you can read it. And or even if you're pulling it from the right, you can still read it. So I like that. The other thing they did, instead of having an actual hook loop, they made a clip on it, so you can get that on your tool belt or even your pocket or whatever tool apron. And then one other thing they did was they put a pencil sharpener in it. It's pretty good, but the pencils I use are the jumbo ones, and I can't obviously get that in there, but it'll fit a regular number 2 pencil in there, so that's a pretty good design. Then the other thing they have here, you know, you notice how that snaps back up underneath here on the bottom. You can adjust how fast that comes back so it doesn't snap down on you. But this is a fast cap. It's called fast cap, and this one I particularly use is actually right there. I ordered this one online off of Amazon, but you can go to FastCap if you really wanted to order it. They really gear more towards woodworking than they do actual framing and construction. A lot of their stuff is for like cabinets and stuff like that. So they have a lot of cool little tools and items to help you do layouts and whatnot. So, but anyhow, like I said, I don't normally do a promo. I just thought it was a cool tape measure. And anyhow, let me get to work. Oh, we got the top shell off, that front fascia cap. You can see all the rot inside here. Gotta get a light on there, might be a little better. It's way up inside there. It's all punked out. So what they had, like right in here, they had a piece of foam that was in there. So that's just another piece of wood, right, that they put in. But there's really no strength on this thing, so we're gonna build a real good radius for it. But this is the shell. See, there's the foam right there. So they just had that on there. That was all they had up against this whole piece. You can see these radii. You got more than one there, radii. You got that. That's all rotted. That one's all rotted. But there should be more strength in there to hold that whole assembly together. That thing just popped down. So let's get to work. Start separating some stuff, and then we can get a new one built for it. Here's a little piece of plywood that I'm taking off. That's what they had stretched across, and they had that screwed up into there. See, and then they had this one screwed into that right there, the lower one. But it's also not glued, and you really need to put some construction adhesive of some sort on these, because that's what's going to take the shock. These things, the whole front end, when you go down the road, these things wobble a lot. So if you don't have any adhesive in there, what the adhesive really does is it takes the stress off the screws. So once the screws start working loose, look at that one. They're all rusty, every one of them actually. These are ones I took out, that trim that went up underneath. They're all rusted. Every screw I've taken out is all rusted. But I mean, that's a given because it's all rotted. But what I'm saying is, you know, this thing, they move quite a bit laterally. When you get down the road, you may feel that from time to time. And if you don't, again, glue everything together, then the screws loosen up. When the screws loosen up, then the caulking breaks loose. When the caulking breaks loose, then you got all that water coming in, and you can't notice it because it's going to be chronic. It's not like it's going to break apart and go, holy cow. It's very unusual that you'll see that much water, but you're going to get all these weeps and wicks, what I call chronic leaks. Those chronic leaks that you don't see are the ones that start rotting everything out until you get something like this. Now, only one time that I remember specifically, we did a jamboree, and that guy drove like 2.5 hours here. He had a window right in there. We started taking the bunk apart. One of the first things we do is take the window out. And once we took that window out, this whole thing just dropped right down. It just came right down. I'm surprised the guy made it 2.5 hours here. But again, this is how bad some of these are built. You know, this isn't such a bad idea, but the problem is, again, it's not glued or anything, and it wasn't taken care of. So let me take all this apart. Then, like I said, I got to get measurements on the radius. I'm going to build a whole radius that'll come all the way across, and that'll give it that much more strength. And then what we do is we wrap it with sheet metal. Once I put the radius on there, the radius is all cupped over, you know, to make the shape. And then we come back here about 1 inch or so, and we're going to wrap it all the way up, and we glue it as well. So that's going to be glued in, the new radius I put in, and then we're going to glue the sheet metal to it, and then we fasten it all together, and then it's all tight. And then at the top we do the same thing. We're going to put that on there, and then I'll take another piece of sheet metal and I'll come right on the top, and that'll hold it all tight too. So it all stays together really tight. I mean, it's practically impossible to take them apart. And a lot of the products we use, they're hard to get apart. I mean, I don't use the cheap stuff, that's for sure. All right, well, let me start taking all this apart, and then we're going to start building the platform, radius, and that top part as well. So I'm trying to make some templates so I can make this radius. And look at here. See that right there? That's up high. And you can't have that up high because then the molding won't sit right. When it doesn't sit right, it doesn't seal right. Just that little bit right there. So, you know, I'm going to make the template the way it should be, but then I'll take a router and I'll clean that up and get that back down. But I find that quite a bit. Some of the other ones that I find is that if they're not too high, they're too short. And then there's a big gap in there, and all they do is just load the bejesus out of it with caulk. and hope that that'll solve the problem. Usually doesn't, especially the cheap stuff they use. But so this was just this radius here, this whole radius, or it wasn't even a radius. That plywood was just screwed to this here, this little piece of thin wood right there. That's it. So you can't just screw right through that because this stuff's just going to split. So you don't want to do that unless you pilot the hole. But you know, my guess is this piece here is going to be an aluminum frame, because most of the, like, that's an aluminum frame right there, and you can, there's a pretty good sag in it. This is just low alloy. There's a lot of people go, boy, I just love aluminum, at least it won't rot. Well, here's a problem. I have to get a flashlight, but when I take this apart, I'll show you. Right in here, there's no weld right there. They only put these as what I call snot welds, little tiny welds in there, just a little tack. But there's one right there, right in here, this one. But I doubt there aren't, and I've showed it before on other videos, how cheap they weld these together. So they put these straps on here, which that's a pretty good idea, and it's supposed to hold this assembly together. But again, they're not glued, so all you're doing is taxing these little staples when the thing is shaking around, and that's not enough. These little staples aren't going to hold all that, you know, stress. You got them up there, but like I said, what we'll end up doing is putting a whole piece of sheet metal going all the way around on top of our radius that we're going to build, and then even on the top I'll have another piece of sheet metal, so all this will work in concert as one piece. That's what really needs to happen on these. So there's also I noticed there's no stock up in here, so right here probably should be a piece of something in there, you know, a piece of stock in there, so you can put everything together properly, and it would probably take some of that sag out. So we'll end up doing that, but we're gonna have to jack that roof up for sure and try and get it back into shape before we do anything. We'll have to overstress it, but that's the way they build them. Get them built, get them out, get them sold. That's a routine. There's no shortage of crappy campers out there, that's for sure. All right, I just wanted to show you how this didn't marry up right here. So if you're one of them DIYers, which this isn't a DIY channel, but you know, if you do see something like that, you know, get it back down, because it's not going to seat right, and then you'll have other issues. Our new bunk. So what I did, this thing is so big, and if you look at this one right here, see how the bunk does not sit on the cab, and a lot of them do. Well, now since it's not, it doesn't have all that strength it needs, and that probably contributed to it bowing like that. So what I did was I made half lap joints, and I'm gonna, you know, glue and screw them and fasten them all together. So that's what we're doing, and then obviously I'll fill it in and we'll get it back together. But that's going to add a lot of strength. So I ran this one down the center, and then, like I said, I got 3 going across to add some more strength to it. So, and that half lap joint will make a big difference for sure. All right, quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. What a mess we got here. Oh, that's still sopping wet right there. It's a little pool. That is a mess. So the other thing we got going on is got a couple of trusses that run across here, and that may have been in case they want to put an AC in there. Got one here, those 2 there. Then that's it. So the next one down here. So from this one to that one's 32 inches, and then this next one right here, let's see what that one measures. Check out my fancy tape measure. That's another 32. So I was hoping to see if I get another one. It's not quite 32, but it's 34. And then this is for the air conditioner. These 2 right here, these are the air conditioning trusses. Then once you get up to the front, here we got another one. That's what, 38. And another one here. So these are low alloy aluminum. So that one's 37. So the span was getting bigger. And then there's nothing up in here. I got nothing up in here. So the rest of this, of 4 foot, there's nothing. So there's no strength in any of this, which is probably what caused this all to cave in. And all they do is, you see they got the frame in there, and there's foam. This is called a ply foam roof. This is foam, and they just skin over it. And then you have the couple of runners over there. That's it. There may be a couple of runners going over to this one somewhere, but I'm not. There's a truss. Yeah, there's a truss right here. So yeah, that's the one back to the 48. But that's it. But there's nothing going side to side. to carry the weight. So we got to figure that out, how we're going to do that. And then we got all these belly dips. It really should have more trusses in it with as much damage that's in it. So we're going to have to reach out to somebody and see what they want to do and how they want to go about trying to solve this mess. We got some options to it, but still it's require a lot of work to add some more trusses. I'd like to see them every 16 inches in here, you know, for the longevity of the coach. You know, that's what we would strive for. All right, so that's our update on our disgusting roof. All right, we'll so this is the platform for our Class C over there. All right, so what I did was there's pocket screws in here, and then I showed you the half laps that I did, and then obviously I stapled it both sides, blah blah blah. But now, see, when you put this in here, the foam, that is what needs to be in there. The foam's going to add a lot of strength, but if you just cut it in real tight, if someone were to cut it in real tight, it's still not glued to this. So even though you may have it glued to the platform on the bottom here, it's still not bringing everything together. So we use a foam adhesive, and I go around and I make sure. So now this is bonded to that. Everything's all bonded together. Everything's all screwed, glued, tattooed, stapled. And then this, you can't use a foam adhesive because it may expand too much. And you know, if you were to try to do all that, it just isn't going to fare well. So this is all spray adhesive. That's what we're doing now. So I already sprayed that other side. That's stuck. That's all. That's what all that green stuff is. That's all our adhesive. So anyhow, that's stuckified. So now I'm going to do this side. But just to give a tip, this isn't necessarily a DIY channel, but there's some tips. And really I'm showing this so the customer knows all the work that I do to get all this right. Because I don't want to have a hiccup and these things not last, because they're paying us to do a job that's going to last. So take time, do it right. You don't have to do it again. And like you said, everything's all done. Then what happens after that is we put the Phylon on top of here. So we'll glue, laminate that on there as well. So, and that one over there, that's the one for the top right there. That's what it's for. I already got that one built, and I already have the radius built too. The radius, where'd that go? Oh, it's right under here. So there's my radius. And it's all filled with foam as well, because that's where you're getting the strength, but it's light. You don't want to make it heavy. So we got all that, same thing, all glued. Everything's all glued together, glued, screwed, tattooed, stapled. All I got to do is tape it, I think. But otherwise, it's all together. So that's what we're working on. So we got her all glued up. Just got to wait for it to tack. And then we lay her down. Then I got this small piece over here, because this is wider than 48. It's sitting right here. Well, this is our Majestic. It's falling apart. So we've got, on the work order, we're going to redo the bunk. But that piece way in the back, right there, it stretches down right here along this wall, all the way down. It's rotted just about to at least to the first part of that glass back there. That is. And then over here, it's the same thing. Way past the bunk. That's all rotted there, so we already plucked that window out on there. We got that window out, but you can see I got this stick right here. You can see all the rot in there. So we'd have to open all this up. We just don't. We'll see which way we go with it. We gotta get that done, and then go around the back wall. Let's see if I can show you that. Back wall is rotted too. I don't think the customer really realized how bad these are. This back wall, I'll see if I can show you. It's hard to show you on the camera. I don't know if you can hear that noise. That's not a solid noise. This is a solid noise. This isn't. So I know it's rotted right in here, probably coming from around that window is where it instigated it. And then right here, you can hear the difference, see? If you listen, that's how you can tell. So if you're inspecting a coach, and all you do is go around and tap, you can listen to it. And you can tell there is nothing there. You can't see that flexing in and out, I don't think, but it's enough that I know that's rotted underneath there. Like I said, this is too. I don't know if you can even see that. Yeah, you can see where I'm pushing how it's flexing. So that's rotted. And then the back side over here is rotted too. I'll go up in the upstairs and show you. It'll be easier. We're trying to pull this thing together. We got everything else framed in. You see all this rot right here. You can't get that glued back. That's a hot mess right there, and it goes all the way over to that window. So, but we got all this, and the same on the other side. Both sides are the same way. That's why I'm, you know, all this is. Hey, you can't get that back together. It's all rotted. The more you clean it, you're just gonna get all that dirt and dust. But this is the frame we did. So we've got all this together. Then we glued everything back in. We changed these two ceiling, this ceiling panel in the bedroom. We changed this one and 1.5 sheets. We did that. And then, like I said, we framed it all, put all new trusses, give us some camber because it was caving in. We had like 1.5 inches or so, I think, drop up there. And now we're trying to get the rest of the bunk together. Is what we're trying to do. So you can see in some of that. It might be easier to show you this way now that I'm on top. You can see some of this rot. See how that's all pulling away? It's all the way over to here. So this is the, come back a little bit. There. It's all junk. So it's got to come back a little bit more to really get fixed right. And it's almost the same, identical on the other side. But that's just what happens with these when they don't get caulked and sealed properly. But they're just prone to fail. But we're ready for decking on this. As soon as we can get everything together, we're going to keep going. Let me give you some updates on our Majestic. All rotted, all rotted. You can see all around the edge, all rotted. Over there, you can see all that where the window was, all rotted. And then also the pieces behind the cab, all rotted. So we're had to obviously take it all apart, as you can see. And we got to get new pieces in there. Sure, got a broken mirror in there. It came in that way. But this piece here, so you can see the sofa, that blank, that piece that comes up and it goes around across here to the top. All rotted, all rotted, all rotted. So we already got the bunk all done, but we do have to make those pieces up. And then we had to take all this siding all the way down to the door down there. And I'm going to try and get a decal on it if I can, just to kind of hide some of that scar if it's possible. But that's how far it was rotted, so we had to take the door out too. So doors out, and we had to take luggage doors out. We take a lot of stuff out. But this is a real rotted mess. So that's what we're working on. We're going to get it all back together for you to give you an update. And then we got the roof all framed. I'll show you that if I hadn't. Can't remember what the last clip we got. So this is our roof. We've reframed it all. So we've got it all reframed up. Everything looks groovy. And we put some struts in there to kind of balance them out because they were not really on center where we wanted them. But I also wanted to keep them straight. So we'll put some blocking in there, reframed everything. So then we replaced 2 ceiling panels in here. So we put fresh new insulation in there. So that's what we're up against, right? So the only thing different on this particular roof than the other ones is that we're not going to be putting in any more insulation. She's on a low budget, real low. So we got it all insulated with the new ISO board and everything in here, and that's still the foam insulation. So it's same as it was. I usually like to put in some extra insulation, but this just wasn't in her budget to do it. All right, we got our new decking going down. We only got a couple of sheets. And the reason why we got this little space here is because the camper is 99 inches wide, and the sheet is only 96. So we'll put a little filler in there. Then what we do is we offset. And then I'll come over there, and that'll keep everything tight. Everything is all glued and stapled the heck out of it. So it's going to stay down there, that's for sure. We got a lot of staples. It will hold for sure. That's what we're up to right now. Here's the back driver's corner. So we had to take all this because it was rotted. So we had to cut the piece. We got to skin it down, clean it up, put it back in. That's the driver's rear corner. Here is the passenger's front, which we got the platform out, and it's right here. And we are going to, we got to put a piece on the front there, on the top, for the platform. It's just got the wood on it. This is the driver's side. So we get all that cleaned up. We got to get this Phylon all squared away. And we're going to have that epoxy, that joint going down. That's all we can do. And then we got the backside down here coming down your way. Better move unless you want to be on YouTube.
No.
Nobody wants to be on YouTube. Alright, same thing here. This was all rotted all the way across. So again, we had to cut the siding. Even the whole bottom part was all rotted. So we took all that out. Jeez. And again, we're gonna have to bump the two pieces together. And we're just gonna have to epoxy that. That's the best we can do. So maybe able to put a decal on it. I don't know. I tried to do a decal template right here to see if I could make a certain cut. That's why that one's like that, because I wanted to put a decal up there, but there's so much of it, I can't do it all that way. It's very time consuming. So, alright. We are going to get the work. We are now getting the sheathing on the side. We're going to get all that laminated, then the siding goes back on. And then over here we got our radius all fixed, fixed up. Platform is in, which is the bottom side. We got the radius right here on, and then the front we have, and then there's another piece of sheet metal. All that is tying everything together. So the next thing I'm going to do, this is a different technique that you'd find on your average. That's not going to be a piece of Phylon that goes around there. The piece that goes on here is an actual fiberglass cap. So it does not get glued, it does not get laminated, it just gets screwed on. So there's going to be a moisture issue that I'm concerned with. So we're going to put this wrap, basically it's a house wrap, we're going to put it on there. Any condensation that gets behind there, it's not going to get on the wood and start rotting anything out. And then it'll get wrapped underneath, and we're going to leave a breather up underneath there, or weep holes if you will. So any condensation it does, it'll still be able to weep. And we're going to put them on the other side so it'll have proper drainage. It's not, a lot of that is just chronic leaks is what I call them, because they're a little bit of moisture will add up, and then it'll start really causing problems down the road, because there's not going to be any air in there to dry it. So all right, our little Majestic is coming together. We get all the siding on the side over here. Siding on the side. I guess it would be on the side, because it was on the top and it was on the roof side, then it'd be called roof. So we get all that, and you can see the tape up there. We're epoxying all those joints. There's a couple down there. We've got half the roof rolled out. We got the siding on the other side over here. So we get that. We just put all that up there because when we put the roof down, we use the sprayer. I don't want to get it all over the siding. So we've got, obviously this is all put back in, all fully adhered. And then we got our radius and our bunk built back together, wires for our lights. We'll go upstairs and show you what we got. This other side just needs to be rolled out. This driver's side has already been done. So this driver's side has already been done. So we gotta see all the dirt. That's why we got this little mop. We're gonna clean all that up, get all that off there, get any dust, and then we take a sprayer, we're gonna spray it down. But we've got all our buffer strips in here. Then we made new flashing. So when we did the decking, the decking only comes 96. The coach is 98.5. So we've got a strip in here, or wherever, up every other one. So this would be favored this side, and then this one would be favored that side. We'd have a strip, and then that one up there would have a strip, kind of jogging back and forth. But to cover all that, we fabricated up some new corners, and it also helps protect the edge from the Phylon over here. So we got all that, and like I said, all we're going to do now is dust it down, spray it, roll it. We start getting the roof. All right, so now we're rolling out the roof. Or rolling down the roof. It's already been rolled out. It's getting rolled down. A lot of rolling. And our old Majestic. So we got everything pretty much back together. Now we're in the home stretch. And we got the epoxy going on the other side. So this side. Well, we are done with our Majestic. Sorry for the noise. Working on another one and the other bay. There's our stamp. We got that on there. And what that does is it just helps us keep track of how old the roof is. And again, if the woman who owns this coach, if she ever decide to sell it, some people want to try to talk you down because they know it needs a roof. And you say, hey, this is still under warranty. You just had to put it on April of 22. So before I forget, I want to thank the customers for bringing this in to us. We appreciate the work. We did a great job on this thing. Boy, there was a lot of work to it. We got all the siding back together. We still got a little scar right here. We got one on the other side. I didn't have a decal to kind of blend that in. She may be able to find a decal guy to do it, or gal, whoever.
But that's all epoxied in there, so it's all watertight. Went around all the windows and everything that we could get to make sure it's all watertight. Went around the lights and everything like that. So we got all that sealed up. You can tell we put a couple of nice strikes of caulking on here. That's all nice and clean. And all of these curbs, they're all welded. Those are heat welded in there, so there's not caulking down there. So that's all heat welded. There's a counter flash on there, and we designed that counter flash, which is going to be that little piece you can see sticking out. That little piece of counter flash goes all around the perimeter of the curb, and the purpose of that is when the rain is coming down, and as the rain is coming across the roof and it wants to try to run up the curb, it's going to hit that and get redirected around. So that's the way you do a commercial roof. This particular roof, all the roofs we do, these are all commercial roofs. So no one does our roofs. If someone tells you they do the same roof that we do, I've never trained anybody to do that. I'd like to start a school, but that's another story. Anyhow, if someone tells you, hey, yeah, I do those roofs, I've never trained anybody to do my roof systems at all. So just keep that in mind. But again, these are all heat welded in there. This is a 60 mil commercial grade TPO roof. TPO meaning thermoplastic. So this is the same roof system you're going to find on a hotel, on a hospital, on an office building, a library, a restaurant. Same exact roof system, same exact design. So if you get on Google or Brave or BitChute or whoever, DuckDuckGo, if you get on one of those platforms, you can search for commercial flat roof images, and you'll see the vents, air conditioner, all of these things are up on what these are called curbs. Some people call them a box, but it's called a curb. So you'll see them all elevated that way. That's how a flat roof functions, and that's why I designed these roofs to function properly for an RV. You can't buy these curbs. They don't make these curbs. This I have to do them. Every one of them I do individually. I fabricate every single thing in here. So even on the skylight, we had to do that one there. You can see we still got that counter flash on that one. And also, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but we did take, there's no screws in there. So we don't usually give out DIY tips, but I would not recommend putting the screws in if you're using the proper material to do it. So these aren't necessarily a DIY video. If you pick up a trick here and there, or a tip here and there, that's great. But I don't know what you're working with. I don't know what you have, and that's why I shy away from trying to answer them. It's not that I'm too good and I just don't want to tell the secret. I don't know what you have. So if I give you some advice and then come to find out, no, it was this instead of that, and it doesn't work well, you know, you're just going to be shaking your fist at me. So that's why I shy away from doing that. A while back, I tried to explain to a guy how to get some siding put back together, and he swore up and down that, you know, I told him the wrong adhesive and this and that. And I use it all day long. I use it all day long. So evidently he wasn't holding his mouth right. So you can see on the air conditioner, we got these two stands. All that does is give us some balance. That's all that does. Give us some balance out there. If you had to service this air conditioner, it comes off and goes on the same exact way. Just make sure your air conditioner guy puts these back on, if, you know, on this coach or any of our coaches for that matter. So we got a plumbing cap right here, and here's a cap back here. So we got one sitting over there. You can see the plumbing right there. Okay, so what these are, and the way I designed these boots here, once you put the pipe in, see, they're loaded. So if you get down the road and this thing pops off, well, it's still going to just go into your holding tank. Where on a RV application, they have these cups right here that go over it with a little rubber gasket, which typically will shrink and get all weathered out, and then water will get in there, and we find a common problem with that. But this is an actual commercial style. So, and then all these do is just snap in like that. So like I said, if it did pop, then all you do is just put a new one on. You know, you just pop a new one on. It's not going to leak into the roof system. So everything else is all complete. You can see we've got our protective strips. You may faintly see something underneath the roof. That's what it is, our protective strips. We got new gutters on here. We got our new insert trim, and we got 2 strikes of caulking on the top of this. So when we install these, we put a load of adhesive caulk on there. We apply it, and then once it's on there, we strike it down. When it cures, we put another lick of caulking on it. When that cures, we come back and put yet another lick of caulking on it. So we get all that. 2 strikes of this product here, it's going to hold. It's good to go. And we don't like seeing all that slobbered roof. Now, maintenance-wise, all you have to do is wash this roof. We've already washed it, and all the dust and everything from here has already gotten on there. I see a bug down there that died on the roof. But everything is all easy enough to wash. You can use some just dish soap and a scrub brush. You can run it through a truck wash if you wanted to, and say, hey, jump up on there with that pressure washer and wash it down. And as long as they're not really close to it and leaning on it real hard, you're not going to breach through it. It's real hard to get through this product, that's for sure. So you can see we already got the bunk all back together. Everything is all, I think I showed all that already. And then we put covers on here. You really want to have those covers on. If you don't have any, I recommend you put some on. And even though you don't really think you want to spend the money, here's what I see from time to time as I'm traveling down, and you see somebody who has a camper in their yard. You'll see the lid underneath there to the vent up just a little bit. And what happens is when the wind goes over there, it kind of vibrates it, and slowly but surely it starts opening it, and then you get water in there, and you don't know it. You're not aware of it. So I'd recommend putting these on. Also, you can, it allows you to open it up when it's raining out. So that's a good advantage to them. So we put them all over on all three of these. We got our new refrigerator vent and everything there. So the way you would check these roofs, and we leave all this with the customer. See, I dig out my little inspection tool here. So we leave them with a tool similar to this. It's just, this one's a fold-up type. But this is how you just check it. Just go right along. We just want to check all these. We want to see them come back. I want to make sure everybody's doing their job. I like to see them come back in 30 days, 60 days max. I really like to see them. But the reason I want to see them come back is because I want to check everything, make sure it's all set. You paid us to put a roof on. I don't want it to go years down the road and then you go, hey, we got a problem. I go, all we had to do is, maybe there's something in the caulking that we didn't know about. It was a bad lot. Sometimes that happens. And if we recognize it, we can peel it all out and put some new in there, right? And then I call the company and I say, hey, we got a bad lot, blah, blah, blah. But that's what they call them when you buy certain products in bulk. They call them lot, they have lot numbers on them. But that's why I want to see them come back. And then you come back every year after that. That's how, every year you come back, we renew the warranty. So this roof system is considered a 20-year roof system. So as long as you bring it back every year, we'll inspect it for you for free. It's free. So there's no money lost there. Now, getting back here, we'll say there was a little bit in there that, if it went in and it was a concern, it would have to reach all the way back here. That it really would. And the way these are welded, I have a certain step technique that I weld. But anyhow, we'll say it's, it's in there. We leave a care package and it has some primers and caulking and everything. And we go over that with the customer, but all you have to do is clean it out, prime it, and apply the caulking. If you had and we're going to show you how to do a patch on the roof if that ever come about. We'll put that in another clip. Instead of keep going over it, I just made another clip I'm going to add to it. So this is the gutter rail that we used, and this is a piece of black, typical your average RV type stuff. And you can see the way this sits in. See how that it sits inside this track. So what I don't like is when water comes down, it gets right in that crack right there, and then it travels. I don't like that. So this is the stuff that I ordered here. I had to have a lot of this stuff a special order because the RV industry will not pay for it and you can't get it. But you can see this one here has some grooves in it. Let's see if I get the camera a little closer. You see how it's got the groove and it sits inside that track right there. So that keeps all the water out. So the reason why we got tape on the back, these are some of the things we go through, because as you're dealing with all this, we got caulkings and everything, and now it's on your finger. And you go to put it up on like this, sometimes it's on the bottom. So then we just peel it right off. And it's just easier so we don't have to clean it, because the products that we use, when they stick, they stick. It's there. You got to really work. And I don't want to work to try to get that off and scratch the finish on the gutters. So that's why we put the tape on that. So we go through some extensive lengths to make sure these coaches come out the way they should, and that they're going to last. So, but again, I want to see them come back just to be sure. It shouldn't take very long to inspect it, but it doesn't cost you anything to do so. So here's the roofing in itself. This is a 60 mil, that's the thickness of it, the 60 mil, and this is what they call a structured or reinforced membrane. You can see the little squares in there. That's the weave. There's a nylon weave in there. You may be able to see it right up in here. See that little nylon weave? That's all in here, and what that does, it's embedded in the product, and what that does is it gives it strength against hail and tree branches and things like that. So even if they did get a hole in this, again, you can put a patch on it, but we can do a hot patch right over it. If they bring it to us, we do it for free. And if it's somewhere where they have to go somewhere else, we leave a little patch piece that if they ever had to get, another person that had a hot air gun that could be able to do it, like another commercial roofing company, you know, I'm sure they'd have to bring it to them, but I don't know too many of them that would do a service call out for a camper, but you never know. So anyhow, that's the roof. We got it all together, and like I said, we thank the customer for bringing this in, and we're going to see you on the next one. If you want to see some of our videos, obviously they're all up on YouTube. There's quite a few all the way back. A couple of ones that I can remember is we've got a fifth wheel. It's called an All-American, I believe, and that one the squirrels got into that one, really tore it up bad. And then we did a Montana. That one was a lot of work as well. We did a Sunnybrook. That one was a lot of work. And then years ago, I think it was like 2016 if I remember correctly, maybe 2017, but it's called a Siesta. And you should watch that to see what some of these other shops are doing and how they're installing these roofs. And I see them all the time on YouTube. Oh yeah, I can put them on. I've got full scaffold all here. There's another scaffold we stretched apart over there because we were working putting the awning back on, but that's why I can't walk around that side. But every one of my bays, they all have scaffold that wraps all around because that's part of the job. I need it. You're going to do a good job when you're, you know, comfortable and you can work along the whole thing, making sure things are lined up. Working off of step ladders, no. I mean, if you're going to be in business to do RV roofs, you should have some equipment to do it. You should have a shop. My shop's 10,000 square feet, and then I have another building that's 5,000 square feet that I use for storage. So, you know, we can, I'm just letting you folks know not to believe everybody you see on YouTube. I've seen quite a few things that I don't particularly care for, but this is a piece of counter flash. I forgot to mention this. So now the water comes down as it's raining, comes down. They're up underneath here is a foam gasket. And I don't want the water as you're traveling to get blown back into that gasket. It's just a little foam gasket. So I put this piece of counter flash, and it goes up underneath this cover. So now when the water comes down, it hits there and it'll get redirected out. On the sides, there's usually a lot of like corrugation and grooves and stuff. You're not going to have water travel back in that way. You just need something up in the front like that. So, but like I said, that's our little Majestic. And I'll probably go around. I'll come down off of here and I'll show you the other side, how that come out. It come out pretty well. Everything looks great. So it's just a matter of her coming down and picking it up. All right, let me go show you the other side. So you see we throw blankets. I just took these blankets off. We had them all covered up on here. Want to make sure we don't get any mess on here. Got some dust on the windshield we'll wash off. And then we got the whole bunk all squared away. Like I said, I believe I already showed you all this. Everything's all sealed. We put some new lights up in there too because the other ones are all corroded. And then sealed everything up. And then you can see, like, I think you can barely see it. You can barely see it. There's a scar right there. And we tried to color match the best we could with the epoxy. So we got that. And then, like I said, I didn't have any decals to do it, but I tried to make a template right here. That's what this is. So it's this is called transfer paper. I don't have it to do it. So, and then I think there's another scar right up over here, right there. But otherwise, I mean, you can, and it comes down here because that's what I was hoping to put a big, you know, stripe of black on there. I thought that would look good. But anyhow, that's our Majestic, and we appreciate you watching. So you're gonna say, why are those on there? So we put those on there because sometimes those little locks right here, they're just plastic. See how that popped? You get down the road, you hit a good bump. I don't want this thing to open up. So we put those on there, and I put them in orange on purpose because then the customer can see, hey, there's something on there. You can cut it and open it up. And I would recommend everybody carry some straps. I know they make Velcro ones now. I'd recommend them do that or something to make sure, because these plastic things, they're not all that secure. So I want to make sure, you know, there's no issues going down the road. So that's what those are for. All right, well, we thank you for watching. Let's see, we got all the coaches that come out with a care package. This is our care package right here. See if I can zoom this in. We got a license plate right here if he wants to put that on. We've got, this is a piece of patch. It's an emergency patch in case he got a tree branch to come down and if he had to patch it. Now this is a hot patch. This is the one that we would use much like this one around here. It's just the same material, but so that would have to be welded in. However, in an emergency, if you had a hole, and we'll say whatever right here, if you saw it in there, you take this and shove it in that hole and you go squirt, 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 squirt all around in a circle like that and load it. Then you squeeze it, it'll bubble up. That's done. This is a moisture cured product. That's what we use. We use all Chemlink products. This is Durlink. That's what we use. So that'll seal it. But then we also left a couple of patches. So the way you want to do your patching, there's an roll away. The way you want to do your patching, and we left a couple in here, is you would center it over your hole. Once you get it centered, take a pen and outline this. You want to outline it with a pen. Now you got that, just set that aside. And we left, there's a little bit of primer right here. You're going to need that primer. And I might as well empty everything out of this thing. Here's a brush. So now you want to go beyond the ink line. You want to go beyond that, maybe 3/8 of an inch or so. So you're going to be doing this on your ink line. Then you want to do the whole thing here. So you got all the inside the ink line, and then about 3/8 over the ink line. You're going to take your patch. You're going to peel the back. This film will peel right off, and you line it up. And I usually reach up underneath, and then I take my other hand and I kind of pull it this way. It keeps it nice and smooth. Now you've got your ink line there. You got your primer out here. You take your brush again and go over this, just like that. Okay, go over here, because it won't bond to this. That's the purpose of the primer. Nothing's going to bond to the TPO unless it's primed. So once you get that, then you come back with your product, and you can put some caulking around there, and that's going to be a pretty darn good band-aid. Now, if the customer really feels he needs to have a hot patch put on it, that's why we left this. We don't want someone to just go to if he can't come back here, we do them for free. If he can't make it here and he's somewhere else, he's like, yeah, that really needs to be put on there. You cannot interchange these materials. So some people think you can take, this is a Carlisle membrane right here. Now Carlisle does make a couple other products, but it has to be the same Carlisle product. But you couldn't take, for instance, GAF and put it on there. You couldn't take Genflex and put it on there. You can't do that. They're two totally different companies, and they're two totally different products. I mean, they're still TPO, but it's kind of like Ford and Chevy. Yeah, they're both a car, they're both a truck, but they're not compatible. You're not swapping parts on them. So it may seem like it'll weld on there, and I've had people at supply houses tell me, oh yeah, we don't have any of that, but you can use this. You can't. There's enough chemical imbalance in each product where they're not compatible. So that's why we put that in there, just in case. So you got the primer, you got that, you got the brush, you got some caulking. And then the caulking, we like to see these come back in 30 days, okay? 30 to 60 days for an initial inspection. After that, it's annual. Now, if the customer says, well, I want to inspect it myself, we want them to go along, put a little friction on here to get it warmed up, and then this is going to stay tight anyways. But in the event he found something, hey, it looks a little loose or whatever, you can put a little bit more primer on there, and you can use that to just give it a little love, especially around the corners. You can go around the corners and everything like that if you had to. So that's why we put all that in there. Let's see, we got a magnet for maybe on your hood of your stove. Got a couple of pens here. Got a fancy dancy key tag with a beverage opener. We can't say beer, it's a beverage. So this is a checker tool. So this is used to check the joint, the welds. You go along like this, and if it pops in there and you find a little hole, we'll say there was a tiny bit, if you did, well, that's what you check for. And these things are gonna move a little bit. So if you did, then again, you can take the primer, take a little brush, put it all in there, take the caulking, and you're done. Okay, that'll hold it so we can get a look at it and make sure everything's all set. But like I said, that's what we like to see. It come back in about 30 days. I like to see them, but 60, all right. But I still want them inspected because I don't want to have a little tiny problem turn into a big problem and then an upset customer. So we got all of that there, and let's see what else we got here. Here is a sample of our product. This is a 60 mil commercial grade. And if you look real hard enough, you can probably see the little, see if I get the angle of this light in here from the shot. You can see these little squares. There's a mesh built into this, which gives it its strength. So that's where it'll resist hail damage, it'll resist tree branches. So it's really hard to poke through this. It truly is. You'd have to have something really hard and sharp to really get it. But if you had a big enough tree branch, that could possibly happen. So we get all that. And then like I said, got another key tag and everything in here. So that's the gist of it. So all the customers, they get these here, and we got an emblem on the back. There's one of our emblems here that we put on the back, and that's about it. So we leave all this with the customer. So Mr. and Mrs. Customer, you know, at least they have all this stuff handy in case of an emergency. So we want to make sure everything stays tight and everything, you got all the products you need, so on. So obviously if you have any issues, there's our telephone number, 423-475-7663. Keeping all this in mind, these are not intended for DIY. I just simply don't have the time to answer all these DIY questions. And the other thing is, I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't know what you have. I don't know what products are on there. And I have guys ask me all the time, what can I use for this? What can I use for that? And I don't want to steer anybody in the wrong direction and find out, okay, well, you got silicone on your windows. What can I use to do my windows? Well, you're going to have to dig all that out. You have to dig it all out. Nothing sticks to silicone. Silicone doesn't stick to silicone. So you really got to clean all that out. And if you don't know if you have silicone, and some people don't know the difference, they can't just go up there and feel it and go, yeah, that's silicone, or it's just a urethane, or it's a terpolymer. I mean, there's a bunch of different products out in the market now, but the biggest one is being the silicone. And some products kind of simulate in a touch, so you may think it's silicone, but all that has to be, like I said, it has to be removed. But again, that's why I try not to get into advising, and I just don't want anybody to be upset, but honestly, I really don't have the time at the risk of sounding like a jerk. I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to do a good job, but you can imagine how many emails and, you know, we get from, you know, with questions, and also questions on our channel. Keeping this in mind as well, we don't quote on social media. If you want a quote on yours, you'd have to give us a call. Again, 423-475-7663. You can do that, and then you can send us an email even if you wanted to at contactus@rvroofinstall.com. So that's about it. Everything's done. I think the customer just showed up, so we're going to get him coupled up here, and he may want to take a glance at the roof, and otherwise we're good to go. So we appreciate y'all watching. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. What that does, from what I understand from the algorithms, what it does is if somebody's looking for information on RV roofs, then, you know, this video or other videos will pop up. That's what I'm guessing. So if you want to subscribe, well, we put these up pretty often. You can go through a lot of the other videos we have. Some, I'm trying to think of some really good ones that we did that were just a hot mess. There's a Georgetown we did, I think a couple years ago. That Georgetown, we did the whole ceiling, took the whole ceiling and roof out and rebuilt that whole entire thing. There's a Montana that's up there. There's a earlier from years ago, maybe 5 years ago, there is a Siesta, and you can, that was roof we did, and the guy who did that roof put 2 roofs on, put the first one on, messed it up, put the second one on, messed it up, and you'll see that hot mess they did. They did not know what they're doing. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of guys out here on YouTube that'll say, hey, you can do this, you can do that. There's a couple of so-called experts that are out there, and I watched one of their videos, or a few of them, and I just shake my head because I know things are going to leak, and I know some of the stuff they've done, they have to have leaked, because there's just no way things go together like that. So if they're not, I don't think they mention that, but on their video, I haven't seen mention, hey, yeah, we had a leak, we had to fix it. But you know, if we have any issues, obviously we want the customer to come back immediately, and let's stifle any leaks at all. But you know, that's like almost unheard of. And I'll be honest with you, some of the biggest problems we've had are with these skylights, with them fracturing, and that's why we do them differently. Some of these ones, like I said, they're manufacturer's defects on a lot of them. But that being said, especially if you had a cambered roof, if you had a roof that had just a little bit of a camber, that wants to lay down flat, like just a flat piece of glass. And if you just make this end tighter and that a little tighter, now it's got that little stress going on it, and it only needs a little bit of stress to crack it. So that's one reason why we don't put any screws in anymore. So, and if they come back for inspection, we take all the screws out, and then what we'll do is just load them, because the product that we use underneath there, it's not coming up. It won't come up. If you have to replace that, you're going to have to rip up that whole entire lens, and you're going to have to. It's not coming up. So, well, anyhow, like I said, I appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see you on the next one.